I'd like to thank everyone for attending, all the commission members, members of the public, for, excuse me, for coming to September 2025 Lancaster County Planning Commission meeting. Looking over the docket, we'll start with our meeting minutes from last month. Has everyone had a chance to review them from the packet Ms. Hall left for us?
Yes.
Any changes or updates needed, I mean? All right, with that said, I'd like to make a motion to accept the PC August meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, motion passed. We've got no public hearing tonight, 2 discussion items on the docket, and 2 other businesses. So we'll jump right into our first discussion docket. It's updated the land use mapping in Chapter 7 of the Comprehensive Plan. Ms. Hall, Ms. Prue.
Lancaster County is participating in a program called Closing America's Wastewater Access Gap Initiative, which was created by the EPA to help rural localities address wastewater concerns in their communities. This initiative provides no-cost technical assistance to communities with failing septic systems or without existing wastewater infrastructure. Through the Technical Assistance Initiative, the EPA also helps communities apply for grant funding. Thus far, the program has assisted Lancaster County with our existing community septic infrastructure, with technical expertise and assistance in obtaining grant funding for this effort. The program is also helping our local communities in addressing future wastewater planning needs and efforts. These planning efforts include the need for mapping of existing infrastructure and future land use, including our planned growth area. To facilitate this discussion, your packet includes a preliminary outline of planning efforts that may be useful for development of a future land use map, as well as several examples of other localities' land use maps. Just something to note is that with the examples, the staff is not intending to try to compare or contrast the land use policies with other localities, as the county's comprehensive plan is the guiding principle for the land use policy. Examples are provided to compare or evaluate the style, content, and organization of each map only. Hopefully you all get a chance to look at all of them. Just a couple of things I wanted to add to that was in our discussions on the staff level, there are a couple of things that we were talking about in trying to incorporate more into our land use map. One is trying to determine what categories that we would like. If we want something more, something additional to what we already have. We have the planned growth area. We have certain things like secondary growth areas. There may be other things that we want to add, like conservation areas, including our W1, maybe public or semi-public areas. Maybe if we decide that there are certain areas, like with the new school going in, for example, you've got a concentration of semi-public areas. I mean, there might be different categories based on all the different efforts that the county has taken that we may want to show on there. To help with that as well, is there maybe certain attributes that the county has now that we don't show, that are things that are helping to drive our growth. For example, our parks, I don't think we have
Water access.
our water access. Our current land use map talks about the need for them, but of course, the county has taken drastic steps to, make that happen. So maybe showing, maybe there are certain things like that might want to be shown on there. Since we have utility scale solar, maybe those are some things. EMS or fire. There's just various other things that the commission can think about in terms of things to show as attributes that help craft what else you show on your land use map. In terms of what was given to you, my personal favorite, if I were to pick an overall one of all these, I personally like the Richmond County one, partially because
That's new for them, too.
Just the way it's organized, mostly, it has this idea of like the higher order, like a higher order categories of land use elements with subcategories and associated maps that go with that. So then it's, what I like about it too is that it's easy to read. It's not too convoluted. You see some of the other ones in there seem to be a little bit more harder to read. You don't know what's going on. Sometimes there are too many categories. I think in a lot of ways less is more. So the idea of having, 10, 12, 15, 20 categories shown with a million different colors maybe isn't the correct, the best way to go. I think that was pretty much it. There's elements from all these that we did like in terms of subcategories, categories, things to show that we can discuss, or if there are any that you'd like to point out and discuss further. But otherwise, that's all I have right now.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. I had a few more things to add. Looking specifically at our map at the secondary growth areas, things have changed a little bit since that was originally created. And so one thing we get a lot of requests for are, rezones, not a lot, but we do get requests for rezones. And specifically, it comes up whether or not those are in the planned growth area. And the area adjacent to the planned growth area has access to utilities for part of it. And then there's a section that we had been discussing utilities with Kilmarnock that we're going to try to define for you before the next meeting and map out. It's a little bit of an area that's kind of triangular between the primary growth area, Irvington, and then down to Weems. So we want to explore that option as secondary growth, but also keep some of those rural village areas that were originally listed as secondary growth. And then, of course, the county owns the Good Luck parcel as you head north on 3, kind of northwest, and that's just above Kilmarnock. So that's an area that would be easy to expand utilities to if we were able to get grant funding. So we were thinking of including that as well in secondary growth. So if anyone has any thoughts on that, please share it with us, bring it to the next meeting if you want to think about it more. We also talked about our overlays. We want to map all the overlays that we have. So historic, rural, we talked about working waterfronts. I think there's one example in the packet. Was there an example of a working waterfront in the packet?
There is. It was actually the Gloucester land use map. They have specific areas, they're little tiny circles on there that they've designated as working waterfront areas.
So that's an interesting concept. I also had a good conversation today with the Virginia Department of Forestry. They have some excellent statistical data that we could use and mapping that they want to share with us specifically about forestry and ag. So it would be nice to capture that in a map as well that we include in the comprehensive plan. So we're looking forward to that discussion with them, and hopefully we'll have some of that information before the next meeting as well. But did anyone have any thoughts on the maps that were provided, or anything you might have specifically liked or want included?
See, we the only ones don't have any commercial lands kind of walked out, right?
Well, that's what my first question was gonna be. Is this in conjunction with our current GIS mapping, or will this take the current GIS map out?
So we would use our GIS mapping, and we've discussed with Glenn, we're getting another license for GIS, and we're gonna try to do this in-house. Glenn and Andrea specifically, we're looking at using that new license.
It was gonna be in addition to it.
Yeah, but then we have the option to use some money from the planning budget for my office if we needed to get like a third party, if something was more complicated that we wanted assistance with. A lot of the engineering firms have the ability to do that for us. So we're looking into all options there, but I think for now, we're gonna try to do it in-house. Glenn, if you want to jump in, go ahead.
I just wanted to add that in trying to address Mr. Brent's question, these layers that that are going to be developed, they would as far as public access to those layers, they would they would be added to the existing GIS.
So that's, and just going back to yours, Mr. Davenport, on the current one, you can actually break out, I believe, commercial, agricultural zones. So, okay, you'd still be able to do that with what?
These could just be, any of these layers could just be added to the existing GIS as additional layers that you can either, that you can turn on and turn off.
And to Mr. Davenport's point, there are some examples in here, I believe, and if they're not, we can bring them at the next meeting. But I think there is an example where they specifically go into zoning, and they have like a zoning map. Do you recall which
Oh, I don't-
example that was?
I did not, that one is not in here.
It's not in here?
No,
Okay.
no. This
So
is
the-
just strictly land use.
I gotcha. The issue with including that would be, it changes, and so really just having that in the GIS that everyone can access is probably the best way to do it, in my opinion, because that's the most up-to-date information. We typically don't update the comprehensive plan continually, so it would become outdated pretty quickly.
Guys, I think I missed the meeting afterwards. Did we pass, because it still says 800 feet on the waterfront overlay, didn't that go down to 4?
So it's still 800, but what we removed was the tributary streams portion
Yeah,
of that.
Definition of-
So it's still 800, but it's off that title, waterfront interface, was the way it's worded. So,
So I had a conversation with Charlie, and he's not here, but anyway, he did bring up something good we might want to consider, is areas, for example, Kings Grant, that have already been zoned and are ready to go, you know, the Golden Eagle. I don't know if there's some way to add a layer to that, it's, you know, these properties are already, you know, ready to develop, doesn't need any approval or anything like that, to some degree. I just thought it was pretty neat to show that.
we do have a spreadsheet that we keep of those properties, and so that's something that we might be able to put online. I know John Bateman had discussed doing that, because a lot of those properties have interest, I guess, for people who either want to build there or a developer might want to purchase it.
Just see.
so
Even our
something
county
online.
piece on Good Luck Road, that could be something like that too. It's been zoned plan. But anyway, to Glenn, I think we've got, I work with all the GIS maps, and I think we've got a pretty good one, but building on it, it's gonna make it even better, quite honestly. It's really user-friendly. If I can use it, that is.
Yeah, and Glenn has done some great maps for us recently, the changes to the waterfront overlay, and he was kind enough to redo the planned growth area, which helped us with some grant applications. So, and all of this is helpful for grant applications, because many of the federal grants and the state grants want us to show that what we're proposing is in the comprehensive plan, and they want that illustrative mapping as well. So it's very helpful for us to have that information.
So, and then one other, for me, not to interrupt, but the extending the utilities, that's all that is. That's not an annexation of said property.
That is just a gleam in the eye. So we have that, I guess, the contractor that we're working with through the EPA for that closing the wastewater access gap. And they're doing a study to help assist us with that process. And I think eventually it will lead to some grant funding. We're hoping to explore the areas that we could potentially extend utilities.
We can extend it, that's what, yeah. Thank you very much. You guys, any
I had
questions?
a few things. I agreed about the Richmond County. I thought that was the easiest to look at. It's the only one that didn't hurt my eyes. So I don't know if there's some way we can kind of look at that and readjusting hours. And then just a few things that I had noted that I thought would be nice to include. Conservation areas, working waterfront, EMS and fire, and public access sites.
What are your thoughts about solar? Pre-approved solar sites, I mean,
I did not include, Andrea found a really good example of that. Was that Gloucester for solar?
Oh, yeah, they did have a separate solar map.
Yeah, so they have separate solar maps, and we can provide that for you next time, so you can see what that looks like. But yeah, that's something we could include as well if you would like.
okay. So we'll look forward to that next week, next month.
If you insist.
No, no. Okay, number 2 on our discussion docket, legislative updates resulting from the 2025 General Assembly. I know we've been push on this one, but I guess they're official now? Okay.
I'll explain. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
All right, so the county attorney, Jim Cornwell, provided staff with a legislative update regarding the results of the 2025 General Assembly session and the veto session. A copy of this update is included in your packet. This update was reviewed by staff, and Mrs. Pruitt has prepared a synopsis of 7 notable changes and provided the corresponding Virginia Code changes for your review. Of these 7 changes, only number 3, House Bill 2660, has the potential to necessitate a revision to our code. There is a state work group which will convene on November 1st, 2025 to present recommendations for the House bill. Staff will review these recommendations and present them to the Planning Commission with any required changes at the January 2026 Planning Commission meeting. So we're going to back burner this one until that date, and we should have more information for you then.
And again, this is state mandates, nothing.
Exactly.
It's what they're talking about. Okay. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hall. Other business, the legislative update, that still pertains to other business number 1? Okay.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry, that legislative update, Mr. Chairman, is for the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Ordinance. So VDEQ had some information on their website that was not quite complete. They had to have one more public comment period. They did that, they closed it. They're compiling that information to send it out. So starting October 1st, we're going to be able to work on that and get those revisions to you. We've been advised to allow our Bay Act liaison to overlook at that and check for any deficiencies. So I'll be working with Ms. Valent Lassiter with DEQ on that before we bring it to you for a vote. So it may not be the October meeting where we vote, but we will present those changes to you at that time.
Okay.
So we might have to have a public hearing at a later date, depending on her feedback, if she needs changes.
Thank you. And then the proposed amendment to the solar ordinance, we've been waiting on that for several months, and we were pushed it over to hear from our county attorney whether or not a special exception will be allowed, and it's my understanding we have not heard anything.
We're waiting to hear back on that still, and as soon as we have an answer to that, we can either, if the answer is that we cannot require a special exception for all ground-mounted solar, then I believe you've already held the public hearing on that, and we could continue to a vote. If there is a change allowable, we will prepare that language for you and bring it to you. We would need to hold another public hearing on that change. So it may not be, the public hearing may not be at the next meeting. It might be you review that language that's proposed and then, vote to have the public hearing at the following
That's if he says
meeting.
we can't do the special exception.
That's correct.
Okay,
So one of 2 options there.
okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You got a lot of stuff on the burner for us.
Yes, and one more, if I may, Mr. Chairman, the Board of Supervisors has referred the heliport language from our ordinance to you all, so we will be adding that to your docket at a later
What
date
is
to
that?
discuss.
Excuse me.
So,
Health? The health?
heliport,
Oh,
so
the
the
heliport.
helicopter
Oh,
issue.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
with
saw that
landings
today.
there. So we'll be bringing that to you at a later date.
Okay. That should be exciting.
Yes, sir.
Got a call about it last night.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. I've gotten a lot of stuff in my mailbox about it. So, does anybody have
You all
anything
not
else?
gonna do that.
Anything else from Ms. Hall? Mr. Sorensen, I confirm there is no updates for the zoning. I didn't forget that on my docket this month. Okay. Well, thank you guys for everything. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.